Hello, good evening, and welcome to ABW Radio Live. We are here to discuss the Arsenal as usual. We've had a good run, and tonight that comes to a crashing halt. So we shall have much to discuss this evening. As usual, I am your host, Chris. I am joined by three gentlemen, two of which you'll remember from just a couple of days ago, but they were so good we brought them back. So we'll start with Drew, who is filling in tonight because Danny has got a poorly tummy and he's not feeling very well. Basically, he's phoned in sick. So Drew has stepped up to the plate again. So good evening to you, Drew.
Hey, Chris, how are you? What's up, guys?
Yeah, all good, mate, all good. Also joined by Mr. Welsh. Good evening, John.
Hello.
Hello. And happily, we also have another debutant with us tonight, and that is Karl, who is joining us, as I say, for the very first time from London, as his Twitter handle may well give away. Good evening to you, Karl. How are you doing, my friend?
How you doing, Chris? You all right?
All good, mate, all good. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And it is with you I shall start, if I may. Let's get some happy things out the way before we launch into the sort of the dregs of misery. Can you just tell us a bit about yourself? Obviously, we've established you're from London. Just tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to love the club and how you found us.
I've been supporting Arsenal for, God, since about 95, 96. It was weird how I started supporting Arsenal. I was watching a game, I can't remember what game it was, on TV with my mum, and my mum saw Ian Wright on TV, and my mum knew Ian Wright when she was younger. They went to school together, so literally it was like, oh, my mum knows someone famous on TV. From then I started supporting Arsenal, and my love of Arsenal came from them. My dad took me to a few games, I think in the 97, 98 season when we won the double, and from then it was a love affair, and it's not ended.
Good stuff. That's a really good story. So your mum went to school with Wrighty then. Did she stay in touch with him, or is that?
No, she doesn't really talk. Well, I'm assuming they went to school when they sort of just drift apart. But my grandma used to babysit for Ian Wright when they were much, much younger.
Ah, fantastic. That's a really cool story. Whenever we ask that question, we always expect somebody to sort of just say the standard answer. It's always interesting when you get a different kind of answer. So. Good stuff. Good stuff. We shall set you on a mission to track down Wrighty again. We'll do a reuniting of your mum and Wrighty. Good stuff. Well, as I say, thanks for coming on. Apologies that we've dropped you into this arena for this evening's discussion, but
so good.
Hey ho, we'll make the best of it. Why don't we stay with you then? Give us your sort of thoughts on the overall performance tonight. Obviously, we'll go into it in more depth in a minute, but what was your kind of initial thoughts on this evening?
When I saw the team sheet, I thought, if we can't beat Dinamo Zagreb with this team, then we have no strength in depth. So you see the team and you think, okay, Arteta's the replacement for Coquelin. Let's see what he can do. Giroud, he's no replacement for Walcott because last season he was our starting striker. So you're thinking, okay, we've got technically our starting striker playing. The backup goalkeeper, you're thinking, okay, he was our number one for a period of time for last season. So although it was a weakened team, it was still quite a strong team. But for me, it just proves that we don't have strength in depth, unfortunately. The basic things is we underestimated them. And that's an Arsenal trait that we do time and time again. We underestimate teams and we seem to think that we can go to teams and just turn up and beat teams, and unfortunately today we didn't do that.
Yeah, well summed up and very measured. I should say just before I go to John and Drew, I'm going to say we're going to try I say to keep this measured and informative and without ranting. We're going to try. Now I can't assure you that's going to happen, but we're going to try our best. So with that in mind, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to go to a very unhappy Drew. Drew, give us your sort of general feelings again on tonight and just sort of a general synopsis of how things went.
The glory of timestamps is that like 1:48 my time, we were in WhatsApp and I was saying that we should. This is a match we should be winning, but you can't go to a Eastern European away day and expect an easy match. It doesn't matter if they're from the Croatian league. It could be Serbia. It doesn't matter. These aren't easy because these are clubs that they have nothing to lose. They're never expected to get out of the group. They have no pressure. So they come out and they enjoy their football and they just play. And like Karl said, we've for years now we've had this sort of theory that we can just go on away days and impose the way we want to play, and then they're laid down and accepted, and that's just never the case. So, for once, I don't know what to say about what the hell just happened. But though I'm disappointed, but I'm not necessarily shocked. Because it's the same thing, rinse, lather, and repeat that we've been doing now in Champions League. This isn't, and the fact that we're struggling tactically domestically should highlight the fact that we're going to struggle even more in Europe, because there's so many different styles of football in Europe. There's so many teams that can bring something that we haven't seen before, that we're not used to playing. So, just as usual, questions tactically have to be asked. Not very many players played well. I'm actually worried about Sanchez. He's not played well this season, and he got that extra rest after Copa America, but he has not come back and done well. And an issue with that is, I'm sure he'll come good, but he was so influential with his performances all season long last year. That was a major reason why we were the informed team in the second half of last season, and we haven't seen anything from him. That's a big question. The one highlight I will say is that Walcott took his goal really well. He did make a little bit of a difference, so hopefully we get to see him start against Chelsea. But after that, I'm standing disappointed. And lastly, I think this match showed why Bellerin's the first choice right back. Debuchy was skinned alive multiple times. He's a little bit off the pace. So from now on out, best 11. Simple as that, I guess.
Yeah. So many things to chew on from that, but I'll give John a chance to give his initial thoughts before we drill down into it in a bit more depth. John, what's your theory on tonight? What went wrong? What was your general overview?
When I saw the lineup, I was all right with it. Didn't really bother me. Thought it made sense making the changes. We've got Chelsea away, then we're away to Tottenham, then away to Leicester. It's a busy couple of weeks coming up. So didn't really have any issue. The only one I did have a little bit of an issue was Ospina, because I hate the rotating a goalkeeper, because I'm sorry, goalkeepers don't need a rest. That's complete bullshit. But yeah, a bit like Karl said, it was a very Arsenal performance. We started okay, the game was fairly even. We had slightly better chances, didn't take our chances, and then we concede just from a collection of errors from so many different players, and just fell to bits. It's fucking pathetic, and it just happens over and over again. It's so frustrating, and the issues with Debuchy playing badly tonight and other players as well, not just picking out one at the moment, because I'm sure we'll go into detail into different players throughout the game, but they were good players last season. There's no reason they shouldn't still be good players now. Like Karl said, a lot of those were first choice players last year who did very well in games. So it's definitely a mentality thing, and that for me only comes from the manager. And whilst if we'd won tonight, it would have looked really smart, making those changes before the Chelsea game, early kick-off on Saturday. Now it looks really fucking stupid. And if we get nothing out of the Chelsea game, it just makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, a good point, which we'll definitely address in a second as well. I do just want to give I'm going to try and find little things that will make us smile throughout this, and I found the first one, and that was from our very own Danny, who says, "Finally, we have a bloke on who looks like he could take on AFTV's Robbie in a fight." I think he's referring to Karl. I hope he's not referring to me, because I'm a lover, not a fighter, as everyone knows. So hopefully that makes us all smile. Let's get to the nitty gritty then, John. You mentioned the fact that we had a lot of changes in the lineup, and Karl, I'll come to you on this one. We've talked about or John's just made the point there that the changes, had it have come off, had we have won, people would have said, "Oh yeah, great idea." I'm personally in the camp of, I think Ian Wright said this after the game, I think one of the other guys said it actually on BT Sport, where you take your strongest team, you win the game, and if you're 2 or 3 nil up after sort of 55, 60 minutes, then you take off the best players and you rest them. Whereas tonight, now we've basically been running doubly as hard for 10, or with 10 men for a long period of time. We'll come to that in a minute. And now we look rather stupid. What was your thoughts on the lineup, and which camp do you stand in with regards to resting players?
I kind of agree with what Ian Wright said. You do take your strongest squad, and then if you're winning 2-3-0, rest players. Don't go with a whole changed team. I know there's some people who beg for rotation. You know, they say, "Oh, we need to rotate more," but tonight just proved that we don't have the strength in depth, and we can't rotate or can't rotate to that extent. We can't drop 6 players because we don't have the squad depth to change 6 players and still win a game. You know, if it's something like in the League Cup, then yeah, okay, maybe. But in the Champions League, like Andrew said, this is the Champions League. Like, you kind of got to play your strongest squad all the time. You know, there are so many different teams in Europe who play different ways, and it just shows that we can't adapt.
Yeah, fair points. Fair points. Drew, you mentioned Debuchy coming in at right back, and also I think we'll take them one by one. We'll start with Debuchy. Now, a few people have said that it was his fault for the first goal. I'm personally in the camp that it was more down to Ox, but we'll cover that in a second. But it wasn't just the goal, was it? He looks to me like a player that only performed or has only really performed well for Arsenal when he's had a run of games. He doesn't strike me as a sort of player who can come in, pick up sort of momentum and play 2 or 3 games, you know, over a period of months. What's your thoughts? I know you had some quite strong views on his performance tonight.
Well, I agree with that, and I think that's highlighted by the fact that he already came out and said that he was questioning leaving the club in the summer. He's not happy. Unfortunately, when morale becomes a factor, a lot of times the performances suffer. So, and I think that showed today. It's not that, you know, Debuchy played poorly up until his injury, you know, when Bellerin came in and took the spot for his own, but this sort of shows why Bellerin took the spot over, I think, on the performances. This just shows why Giroud's now second. I mean, Debuchy's not second choice now. I mean, there's really not much more to say. Positionally, he was actually very poor. For the first goal, I'd say it's a mix between Ox and Debuchy at fault. Ox did lose the winger, but Debuchy needs to be, as the right back, he needs to be spatially aware about his entire flank, and he left so much space on the right, worrying about the center areas when both center backs plus Arteta were already tracked back. So why was he tucked in so central? You know, that's a right back's mistake. So I think you could blame Ox for losing his marker, but you have to also blame Debuchy for not controlling his side of the pitch. That's his entire job. So, and then after that, you know, 2 minutes later, he got skinned alive by the same player, and then he again, there was multiple instances where he was out of position all match long. He didn't look up to pace. He still doesn't look 100% fit, if you ask me. He got beat too easily. He just looks a player that almost doesn't, you know, like he said, doesn't almost really want to be there, and that's a little bit worrying for me. You know, Bellerin's done great, and he's come on so well, but as a youngster, he will need those breaks sometimes. If we can't rely on Debuchy to come in if he's needed, then that's a serious problem.
Do you think, just staying with you for a minute, do you think that there's a popularity, you know, my dig's bigger than your dick kind of thing, with regards to sort of the players of the moment? You know, we were all shouting from the rooftops last year that we wanted to see Bellerin, we wanted to get him games, and you know, he took Debuchy's place, and he's very much one of the fashionable players, if you like. Now, I'm not knocking the kid; he's clearly very talented. My question to you would be, if that's Bellerin making those mistakes tonight, do more people crucify him, or do they just say, "Well, he's a young player"? And off the back of that question, is that even relevant if Debuchy is of, you know, the age and the experience he is? Is that even a fair comparison?
I think it depends on the person. Obviously, so many Arsenal fans have so many different views in the way they want to express them and what they target to criticize. But Bellerin has showed a lot of maturity for someone so young. He's matured very quickly, which is actually pretty rare. But I think that's just come down to playing. If he wasn't playing as routinely as he was last season, I think he'd be making more of those mistakes that a young player would make. But if you look at other young wingbacks around the world, like, you know, you have your Gaias and Rodriguez and Alaba, look how well they develop just by playing. They're good. Bellerin's going to make mistakes this season. I mean, it's going to happen because you make mistakes as you're younger and as you learn. But I still think he would come under some sort of criticism. I don't know if he'd necessarily be as harsh, because some people want to see him succeed, and I agree that with Arsenal fans especially, we sort of take to the fashionable player, like you said. But I think no matter what, whoever made the mistake today should have been would have had to deal with a tough skinning at the moment for it. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I would ask you, please, if you could not mention David Alaba, because Tom's erection will probably take us all out if you do. So if you mention the other guy he likes, who I won't name, then the world will end. So let's not go there.
Oh my God! You mean Sabitzer?
Yeah, or Mariano. He'll be all over this. It'll just be a mess. It'll go everywhere. Tom will be back with us at the weekend, so shout out to Tom. John, let me come to you. I'm going to change players because I'm sure we could probably discuss one player all evening, but I'm going to change players. Mikel Arteta. Now, I'll hold my hands up. I really like the guy, and that doesn't mean that he's the right player. So before anyone jumps on that, I'm not saying because he's a nice bloke he should play. What I am saying is that I was pleased that he stayed. I think he's a true professional, and I do think that he can do a job in a specific game. My question to you tonight would be, would you rather have seen someone like a Mathieu Flamini? If you were going to rest Coquelin, would you rather have seen a Flamini, particularly given the fact that Cazorla was still in the lineup, rather than Mikel, who, fair to say, didn't play particularly well tonight, did give the ball away. His movement wasn't the best. I think there's a stat going around, which I hate these stats, but this whole, 0% possession, 0 interceptions, all this bollocks. If you want to do that, get an orange Mac and record stats, great for you. Well done, bravo. It's very easy to have a go at players after a game. But do you think that the energy factor was lacking for the centre of that midfield for tonight's game?
Well, definitely. I mean, so many of their breaks came straight through the middle. But I don't think it makes any difference whether you put Flamini or Arteta next to Cazorla, to be perfectly honest. Arteta is better on the ball than Flamini. I know he misplaced a lot of passes tonight, but I think that's just down to general rustiness anyway, not having game time. But Cazorla was just as poor tonight. I know he's the deep-lying playmaker or whatever you want to call him, but I'm sorry, if you play that position, you've got to make a fucking tackle as well. And just quickly before I go back to insulting Arteta, Debuchy was at fault for the goal. Oxlade-Chamberlain was out of position, but before that, the pass that got past Arteta and the guy that ran past him, he could have tackled. Cazorla did absolutely no tracking back, so you've got to take those two, then Debuchy, then Oxlade-Chamberlain, and if that's checking goal, he makes a save and Ospina doesn't. So that's it. What's that? 5 players at fault for one goal. It's just bad all round. But yeah, he was poor tonight. I mean, we looked better when he went off, and that says a lot. I didn't think, Zagreb deserved some credit. I thought their wide players were really, really good tonight. And Cazorla's a great player and can pass the ball around and make space and stuff. But he gave the ball away in really bad areas. Arteta made bad tackles, gave away stupid free kicks. They made some terrible back passes that put the defence in real pressure tonight. And it highlights the problem that we are going to have when we can't play Coquelin in a game for whatever reason, whether it's injury or suspension or something like that. You then have to rely on either Arteta or Flamini. Now, I'd rather have Arteta than Flamini, personally, because I just think he's a better player. But if you're up against a good enough team and they just play to his weaknesses, against his weaknesses, then you're going to get ripped apart in centre midfield. So I don't think you can play him next to Cazorla. If you played him next to Ramsey, maybe might work a bit better. He was obviously rested, which I thought was a fine idea at the time because we should have won the game. But the problem is now that Arteta's going to get loads of stick, which is fair enough. If you play badly, you deserve to get the stick. But the manager's going to get even more stick because he didn't sign a player to play in that position. That then means that whole negativity just filters all around the club, and it just makes it worse. I mean, if you keep putting in performances like that and making mistakes like that tactically, then the big players in your team start going, "Why am I even here? What is the point?" They start looking elsewhere. It just brings a downer on everything, and the home atmosphere is just going to be awful. I mean, I'm quite pleased that our next couple of games are all away. Because away support, they're always cheering, they're always shouting, and that's great. Not having a pop at the home fans, because it's expensive and you pay your money, you want to see good football and you want to see the team win, which is fair enough. If you want to moan, you're well within your right to moan, because I'm having a fucking moan now. But the atmosphere in the stadium is going to be horrible, unless we start winning games. So all those things, they all add together, and you just saw Coquelin when he came on, just up the tempo of everything. It was so slow tonight. Everything was really slow. I mean, and Arteta wasn't the only one. There were some big players tonight who were really bad. So if you get to them, I'll rip into a few of them as well. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely come to them. I know we're going to come to one who's going to divide opinion again very shortly. But I did just want to ask you one other thing, just with regards to Arteta. And I know a lot of people have, we've got 114 people watching, and thank you to you all for joining us, whether you're whether you agree with what we say or disagree. It's good to have you on board, so thank you to you all. A lot of people are fully aware of the fact that I do like Mikel Arteta as a footballer, and I do think he's still got something to give us this season. What I would say, and this is where I will completely hold my hands up, is I didn't think tonight was the game that was the time to bring him in. I think games at home against lesser sides, arguably when we've been on the back of a Champions League game in midweek and we've got a lesser side on the weekend, that for me is the game that he should be coming into, not tonight. So with that being said, if you were managing tonight, would you have gone with a full strength side, or would you just maybe have changed some of the players in the positions they're in? For example, would you have had Theo? Would you have played Oxlade-Chamberlain centrally maybe, or is there anything?
I might have, maybe I would have played Ramsey next to Arteta instead of Cazorla. I don't think I would have played those two together. Yeah. I don't have a problem with resting Coquelin. That's fine, because he's obviously going to start against Chelsea, and I know it's the Mickey Mouse Cup on Wednesday, but it's against Spurs, so he's going to want to put out a good team. So you probably think he's going to play in that as well. And then you've got Leicester away, and I know people saying, well, it's only Leicester. Well, it's Leicester who are doing really fucking well in the league, and they're playing most teams off the park, regardless of the first half. I know against Villa they were bad, but they came back into it, so they are playing well. So you do have to rotate at some point, but yeah, it's putting the right player next to people. Ramsey's best season for Arsenal came when he was playing next to Arteta, so that's fine. It gives him someone with legs who will run up and down for him, and then Arteta can just pass the ball around. Instead, you've got two players who aren't going to move in Arteta and Cazorla, and they're going to pass fine, but that's it. They don't go up and down, well, Cazorla goes forwards, but he doesn't come back.
No, I agree. Good points and well made. Excuse me, Karl, I'll come to you. We're going to move into the territory. I'm sure we'll divide opinion on this one. Olivier Giroud. Now, we had a very brief chat off air before we came on, you and I, and we both agreed exactly that it was it was an issue that was going to happen from the minute that Giroud got booked for dissent, which was, there's nothing infuriates me more. In fact, I fine players very heavily, even at lower league, because I just hate it. It's the most ridiculous booking you can ever get. He gets booked for dissent, and then it goes into a tackle, which I know our guys in our group were a bit divided on whether it was a booking or whether it wasn't. What we all agreed on, though, is that the minute you get booked, or the minute you're on a booking, you can't make that challenge. What was your thoughts on Giroud tonight? Not just the sending off, but he looks a man, I don't know, he looks like a man who's just been caught shagging people in a hotel room again, doesn't he?
You can tell he's a guy that plays off confidence. He is a confidence player. Like last season, things were going well for him, and he was scoring loads of goals, and no one had a problem with him. And now he's having a bit of trouble. His head didn't look right today. Like, even when he came out and he missed that very first opportunity, in all honesty, it wasn't the easiest of chances, but he should have scored. And then this is now people's when people cry for this world-class striker and they see chances like that he missed, it's kind of hard to defend him. But when he got caution for dissent, straight away you knew he was going to get sent off. You knew, and I think it needed someone like Arsene Wenger or Mikel Arteta, our captain, to take him and say, no stupid challenges. Do your job up the pitch. Just keep your head in the game. And I don't know if that happened. Maybe it did off camera. We don't know. But I think that should have happened. The manager or Arteta or someone in the squad, doesn't take the captain, anyone in the squad, take him to the side and just say, look, you really need to get your head in this game. The challenge was, for me, it was a yellow card. I know people may say, oh, it's soft. It was. He caught the guy, and it was a yellow card. And as soon as he done that, you just think he's off. And for me, I know it's harsh to say, but I think he ruined the game today.
No, I think that's absolutely accurate, and I hold my hands up. I'm Giroud's biggest defender, but I completely agree. I thought, with 11 men, even at 2-0, I thought that was a game we could take something from, if not win. We still look good enough, particularly when we made the changes. But again, we'll come on to that. I did say I'd give you all a say on just one player each, but I think it would be remiss of me not to come to the other two lads with regards to Giroud. Danny's already piped up there with his French lamppost. John, what was your thoughts on Giroud? I mean, we both you and I have both openly said we don't think Theo Walcott is a centre forward. And sidebar, one goal tonight doesn't change my views on that, by the way. But what else have we got? I mean, are we missing something? Have we been blind to say that we think Giroud can do the job, or what's your views on the whole thing?
No, I think Karl's spot on. He's a confidence player. I think we've all known that for a long time. But you look at the goals he's scored, all the time he's been at Arsenal, he scores goals. He also costs £12 million. What do you expect for £12 million? Sorry. Tonight he missed. Well, one he should have scored, definitely. The one he sort of put wide, bounced back off the post and he put wide, or the keeper made a save, whatever it was, But he should have finished that. The header. The keeper made what looked like a very good save. I think he made it look better than maybe it was. But he got his head on it and he directed it to the corner. It could have been a little bit closer to the corner, maybe, if I'm being uber critical. But other than that, I thought he played well. And then I don't know what it was. Was it just one challenge he didn't like or something? He just flipped. Something just switched in his head and then started mouthing off at the referee. Some people will say that booking's a bit harsh, but in Europe we know they're stricter. And it's in the rules. If you swear or you're abusive to the referee, you should get a yellow card. I know it doesn't happen very often, but that's what happens. And I know some people don't think the challenge was a second yellow. Or I'm sorry, if you kick someone in the knee with your studs up, that's normally a red card. I don't know how that's not dangerous play in the first place. So it's at least a yellow. So he's an idiot. He cost the team. The second goal comes from a corner where there should be a man defending at the near post, which is normally Giroud. And he normally wins those headers all day long. He's not there. All right, the rest of the team should have still dealt with it, but that lets the team down. And you're now having the team run around tired, tiring out players before a big game on Saturday, and which Chelsea have got the advantage in. They cruised to a nice 4-0 at home. I know we're away, and there's nothing we can do about that. But you try and help your team in every way you can, and he's really let everyone down today. He started fine, and then I don't know what it was, just triggered him. But yeah, his confidence is just gone. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where you just have to keep playing him until it comes back. Yeah. He just needs games, which I know will annoy people because they'll all say you want to play Walcott up front. I still don't think he's a striker. But you've got to play him until he starts getting goals and gets his confidence back. And it's just the same like with Ramsey when he was in his bad patch. You just have to play the player. He's one of those players. And we can't do anything about that until January, unfortunately. If you want someone else, tough shit, get on with it.
The one thing I would say with Giroud, you say that we need to play him. Well, he hasn't got too much competition, has he? Bless him. So
yeah, no, that's I don't know. Joel Campbell, we should always play.
Yeah. I mean,
he should have got that whilst he could, shouldn't he? So.
Alex Iwobi is polishing his boots as we speak. He's ready to rock and roll, bless him. But no, I think you make some excellent points, Drew. I want to sort of take it on a slightly different curve, but still on the same player. For me, the biggest worry, if you take the sending off aside, one of the biggest worries for me tonight was we're away from home. We're playing on a quite a tricky pitch. The atmosphere is very different. It's a European game, all the cliches, etc. For me, it wasn't just the fact he missed a couple of chances, but his overall hold-up play. It just wasn't there. Every single ball that your favourite and mine, Mesut, was playing into him seemed to come off him. He couldn't get hold of the ball. Though he was going down after every challenge, as is his way. In fairness, that's a worry, isn't it? When you're looking for a player who essentially that is what he's there. That's the reason why he is a centre forward, to hold that ball up and bring others into areas. What was your thoughts on his overall performance before the sending off tonight?
I mean, I thought it was shit before he got sent off. But it's frustrating when he does play well. He plays very well. His hold to play when it's on point is fantastic, and that's a huge part of what we do tactically. But my biggest issue with him there is that sometimes he's more willing to go to ground and try to whine around and get a cheap foul than to actually just do his job. He's 6'4". He's a big guy. There's no reason why he should be looking for a foul first and foremost. I'd rather him foul people more than him, well, within reason, than him trying to always, pussyfoot around and get fouled. That's not his job. If you can bully around, like Danny said, if you can bully around their center backs while you hold up the ball, that's your mission in life if you're a center forward of the style that he's in. So it frustrates me when he just doesn't play that way. He was very poor today. I don't know why, but we can all agree that he is a confidence player, and when someone comes out and openly admits that their confidence takes a hit when he receives negative press, well, then you probably shouldn't be a footballer if that's the case. Professional athletes are criticized from every corner of every news outlet there ever was created, especially when you're not playing well. Even when you are playing well, you still get criticism. So, and then when you admit that, it's going to make it worse. So I just feel like that's something he has to work on, whether if it's he needs to work on it or if Wenger needs to help him work on it. But Karl actually brought up something very important before, where we don't have people in our team that can take players to the side and slap them around a little bit mentally. We don't have that. We've had that. So many of our players in the past had that quality. We don't have that right now. And in another day and age, maybe 8-9 years ago, if Giroud put in a performance like that in the first 20 minutes, someone would step him aside and say, "Get your shit together." But we don't have people that do that now. And I think that's a huge, huge mental deficiency that we have yet to address for a very long time. And I think in a match like today, it showed. So it's a little bit concerning because, as we said, we have tough fixtures coming up. Chelsea away, Leicester away is not going to be a walk in the park. I don't care what anybody says. And that's mental fragility is one of our biggest weaknesses. The same as is that we have tactical, rigidity. So I don't think Giroud played well at all. And that's why I said if I don't see Walcott starting against Chelsea, I'm going to ask why the hell isn't he?
Yeah. I think he will because if you look at Chelsea's defending in the early season, the one thing they struggle with is pace. So I think that's exactly why Giroud started tonight over Theo. To be honest, like you, I'll be amazed if he doesn't start Saturday. But I should also mention as well that with regards to the sort of the starting lineup tonight, Calvin Masson's brought up an excellent point on Twitter. We shouldn't forget that Kieran Gibbs as well. For me, was really poor tonight. Really, really poor. And this is another player for me that I think Neil was saying this a while back. The guy's gone backwards. His career has gone massively backwards, and I really worry at this point, whether he's ever going to make it, sort of as a first team player again. I think it's so funny how things change, and in less than a year, Monreal's come from a joke player to an absolutely vital part of our starting 11. And I just thought Gibbs again tonight. The lack of header or seeming ducking out of the header, whether he got a shout from behind or what, if you duck from a corner at any position, you want your ass handed to you. And you could hear, we had Martin Keown in the commentary box in the UK coverage, and you could almost hear the groan as Gibbs went under that ball from Keown, because if that's Keown, he clears probably the goalkeeper out, the goal out, the posts out, the stewards out. He probably clears everyone out to get to that ball, and I just worry about Kieran Gibbs and his form.
Sorry, Chris. I was going to say, I think that speaks to the point that Drew and Karl were both making. That's a mental fragility in players, that if they're out of the team that long, that shouldn't be when you come back in, oh, I'm a bit nervous, I'm on edge. No, it should be, right, I'm going to show why the fuck I should be playing every week.
Exactly.
And our players don't have that. It goes back to that whole, do we have a natural leader in the team conversation.
Well, it's not even that. Another issue it shows is that, honestly, everyone kind of sort of raves on about how we're building this English core, but is our English core really that good?
No.
I mean, to be, not to, start another debate on the topic right now, but like you just said, everyone was screaming for Monreal to get drawn and quartered a year ago, and now everyone is obsessed with him, and now Kieran Gibbs looks 1/5 the player he used to be, and it wasn't even guaranteed he was going to develop into something huge, but he was up there with when people's discussions of brightest new left back coming through, and now look how he looks. So I don't know. It's a good point you bring up about him, though, for sure.
I should say to counteract that balance, and again, I apologise. We don't always get to all the chats that go on in the chat box because it's very hard trying to do 8 things at once. It's very hard for me to do one thing at once, let alone 8. But Andrew Rhodes made a very good point where he did say, so why can't Kieran Gibbs go from 0 to 10? Why can't he, do what Monreal's done? My response to that would be, for me, Monreal was never a bad player. There was just too many uneducated, very simple people out there that didn't seem to understand that he was taking a bit of time to adapt and was actually not making half as many of the mistakes as he was getting blamed for, just because he was a scapegoat for 1 or 2 mistakes that he did make. So, whereas for Kieran Gibbs, for me, I'm not 100% sure I was ever convinced. And I hope he does. I really hope he does come good, because this is a squad game. We're going to need all the players we've got. So, we shall see on that one.
Just before you go on, Chris, sorry,
Yeah.
I've been asked, Drew, what's wrong with your plant that's on the window, and is there a donate button for it? Is there a way we could... Oh, Danny's asking to adopt it, and Pixel Rapture wants to know if there's a donation button to save your plant.
No, it's it died, so now it's coming back, so it hasn't budded yet.
Oh, okay. There you go, people. It's okay. The plant's fine.
It is the Kieran Gibbs of the plant world. It's it started strong and it's just gradually gone backwards. Pray for Drew's plant. Right, let's get it back to football. So we should sort of discuss. Obviously, we discussed the first goal. We're all kind of in agreement that there was multiple mistakes, and whoever you blame, there was several people you could have blamed. So we'll draw a line under that. We've covered the Giroud sending off. We go in at half time. We think, okay, right, this is still game on. Okay, we're down to 10 men, but we've played with 10 men before. And then we go and ship a second. I've just touched briefly on it there with the Gibbs issue from the corner. Karl, how are we conceding goals from corners in Europe against a side that have never beaten an English side? Let's not forget. And from memory, I might be wrong on this, so don't quote me, but didn't they ship 5 or 6 to someone like Real Madrid just a few years ago at home? I think I might be wrong there, but how the hell are we conceding a goal from a corner against a team of this kind of stature?
See, this is what gets me frustrated, because we have Steve Bold, who arguably was one of our greatest defenders. So you have to think to yourself, why are we not being drilled on set pieces or defending set pieces? In both ways, attacking and defending, because we never seem to beat the first man when we do take set pieces. And defending them, you're thinking, and Koscielny shouldn't get a free ride on the goal that we conceded either, because he didn't jump either. Him and Arteta didn't seem to jump for the ball. And you're thinking to yourself, you see the ball coming over, you're a defender, your first thought should be attack that ball. Even, I would say, our goalkeeper wasn't covered in glory either, because for me, he should save that. If that's Czech, he's saving that. Let's be honest. Czech he's either coming for that ball or he's saving that. For me, Koscielny didn't jump. He turned his back on it, and this is not the first time that we're talking about Koscielny turning his back. He did it against, I think it was the West Ham goal, and I think it was the Crystal Palace one as well, where he turned his back. So it's almost like he's not being told to go and attack the ball. He's turned his back, and Arteta did the same thing. He seemed to didn't jump as well. So you're thinking to yourself, if you're practicing those things in training, you don't do those things. Let's be real. If you're practicing something day in, day out, you don't make those mistakes. So for me, it's almost like they're not practicing or not being drilled on defending set pieces or set pieces in general.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. And the Steve Bold thing, it's bizarre. I think, in fairness, and again, we'll say it as it is here. I think Arsene Wenger has a lot of explaining to do on that regard, because I don't think Steve Bold is being given the license to do things his way. I just don't think he can be, because there's just no way that a guy with that much experience would let that happen. I think there's something in the way we're being set up of how we defend certain situations. And Koscielny, again, I'm a massive fan. I think he's a very, very accomplished defender. I think he's one of the better defenders in the country, if not throughout Europe, in a certain position. In the air, he is culpable. And I think he's another one of the people we've mentioned before about being a form player. When he's out of form, you really notice it. And I think he's the ball playing centre half But when the ball's coming straight at him and he can head it away, fine. When he's under pressure, I do think you can get a mistake out of him. But I suppose you could say the same about any defender. Ask John Terry. But we'll move it on to the performance after we went 2-0 down. John, what was your sort of thoughts about the kind of the fight back, if you will? I mean, we put up a bit of a fight. I think when we got the goal back, I did believe we could get the 2-2 because the momentum seemed to be with us. They did seem to sit deep, but ironically, the deeper they sat, the less chances we got. What was your kind of thoughts on the change around, and in particular the triple substitution?
I mean, that was just bizarre because you don't ever see that. I didn't get why there wasn't a change made at half time. As soon as we came out, it seemed obvious to me that you bring on Walcott. Again, I'm not his biggest fan, and I don't think he's a striker. But in a game like that where you're losing, you think you're down to 10 men, just stick him up front. If they sit deep, they sit deep. Fine. We've then got players, who can pick out a pass. But they were going for it, which I think helped us get that goal. Personally, there might be some people who disagree with me, but I would have actually taken off Ozil. Although second half he was superb. Where the fuck was he in the first half? Because he didn't fucking turn up for that. I didn't see him once. He was drifting out on the left and just not getting the ball. It was pathetic. Then second half we go down to 10 men and he's absolutely everywhere. Brilliant. Well, that's very nice of you, Mesut, but we paid all that money for you to do it for 90 minutes, not for 45. So sorry, that doesn't let you off. Walcott, got his goal. I slightly disagree with Drew. I don't think it was that great a finish. I think it's what I'd expect from, if I spent £10 million on a striker, I'd expect them to finish that. I don't, it wasn't like it was a finessed, curled, lovely cushioned. It looked more like a toe punt to me and just went in the bottom corner. The rest of the game, he didn't really make any movements when it was coming out to left wing. He was staying central. He wasn't making runs into the fullback area to try and stretch the defence. He just doesn't do that. The dribble substitution, Joel Campbell was just a Hail Mary because he had nothing else on the bench. Let's be honest, he shouldn't really even be at the club. He was going to be sold. They just didn't sell him in the end and ended up keeping him because we couldn't buy anyone else. We couldn't. We didn't buy anyone else. I'm trying to think who was the other player who came on now. Coquelin.
Coquelin.
I mean, it was the right move, but being 2-0 down and having to bring on a defensive midfielder
the wrong time, yeah.
When you're 2-0 down, it just doesn't speak great to what your plan and how the whole game plan has gone. So I think the substitutions were too late. I think they were the only ones he could make. And I just think there was too many bad performances from so many players. Like Drew was saying to earlier, he was worrying about Sanchez. I know he put the ball in for Walcott. It's not the hardest ball in the world to play. But other than that, did he do anything else in the game, really? I mean, Ozil ran around a lot in the second half and got on the ball a lot and tried to make passes, but most of them didn't come off, and it was nice that he was sharing the energy and the movement and everything. The first half he wasn't in the game. Oxlade-Chamberlain made one good run and cross right at the start of the game, and then the rest of the game seemed to have the worst touch in the world, and the ball bounced off him 10 yards every single time. It was just awful. And the whole, you're losing in a game where you expect not to be. You're down to 10 men, and then it gets into half time. You want your manager to do something to affect it. If I'm those group of players and I'm sent out on the pitch with the same group of players and the way we've been playing, I'm not feeling, I wouldn't know how to take that from the manager. I'd be thinking, Walcott's going to come on it. We're going to have something to hit that long ball, something to give us a little boost, something to sort of boost the morale. And he just didn't do it. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, the one thing I wonder, I know you've played a bit of Sunday League football in your time, I know Drew has, I'm sure Karl has. In my experience of sort of lower league football is, you get a rattle from the manager at half-time and you pretty much get told, right, you sort yourselves out or you're getting the hook within 5 minutes, or as you say, it's an instant decision and you get brought off at half-time. And I thought if ever there was a game, like you said, if there was ever a game where a change at half-time could have made all the difference. Tonight was it. It was like you say.
If we were still with 11 players on the pitch, then fair enough. Then I wouldn't have. No, but we're down to 10 men.
Yeah.
There's no. I don't understand the reasoning at all to not just bring Walcott on straight away at half time. It's the obvious and, to be perfectly honest, the only sort of real offensive. I know we had Joel Campbell as well.
Yeah.
But, it's the only real option what we've got on the bench.
You needed pace, and for me, what I would have done, and this is a bit sort of different, but I would maybe have looked at bringing off Santi Cazorla, moving Meza inside, and putting Walcott on, and just having pace.
There was, Cazorla. Cazorla had a bad game as well. I know at least Ozil did improve. So but there was plenty of. You could have taken Oxlade-Chamberlain off. I know he's quick, but he was fucking useless. Let's be honest. So he's not going to make any difference having him on the pitch still.
I'm worried about him as well, but we'll cover that on another time because we haven't got time. But I'm worried about the myth that is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain right now, and I know that sounds very harsh, but I'm just concerned. I love him, by the way. I'm not saying he's not very good. I'm sure he's a very good footballer, but this thing about he has to play, I'm not so sure right now. But that's for a rainy day. I've got some quotes for the manager here, which I'll share with you. On Olivier Giroud's sending off for 2 bookable offences, he says, "I think the first yellow card he's unlucky because it's a foul for us," which. Yes, I agree with, but that doesn't excuse his mouth. On the second, it's an accident. He doesn't foul on purpose. They got away with many times with obvious fouls, but without yellow cards. Whilst I think he has a point on the yellow cards, I've been booked 1,000 times for making an accidental foul, so I don't think that washes at this level. Did
he say anything about Ospina playing defensive midfield and kicking that young Croatian kid in the knee that could have been a straight red?
No, but in Ospina's defence, I loved that. So just the man who looks like a bouncer. I thought we were going to get Schumacher. I thought, Christ, this guy's going in the stands. But no, you make a point on another day. A keeper is off for that, but I personally loved it. But yeah, I'm going to come to Drew and then to Karl with 2 slightly different subjects. Drew, I want you to just bring up some chat about Alexis here. You share some thoughts that I share as well. And I know they're not going to be popular thoughts, and I know we'll probably get a lot of people that will say, you don't know what you're talking about. But you share my thoughts that Alexis doesn't quite look... how do we put this? It's not the fact that he's tired, because obviously the guy's got to be tired. However good an athlete he is, all the football he's playing is going to catch up. I think your thoughts on it are much the same as mine. We're just worried about his overall game. He looks like a player who's really struggling to find any sort of cohesion in his game, any sort of spark that he had last year. Just talk us through your concerns about a player that we basically relied on all last season, not quite having it so far this year.
I think it could be a concern because, obviously it's early, so we don't know. But say 3 or 4 months from now, if he still hasn't really found any sort of form, then people are going to start to ask, is this why Barca was so happy to let him go? Because he struggled to break into their side routinely. Now, I'm not saying that's where my head is at now, because I still love the guy, and I think he has plenty of time to come good on his performances. But he's not been good this season, and which is weird because he played very good for Chile in Copa America. And he came back and he had a good rest, but even getting a couple of weeks rest after a tournament shouldn't ruin your form like that. And if that's the case, that's a little bit worrying in its own right. Maybe he just feels like because we sort of rode on his back so much last season, he feels responsible in that same regard this season, so he's trying too hard to make things happen. But I do also believe he's become too predictable. We were talking about that in the WhatsApp group the other day about how every time he gets the ball, he's trying to come in centrally, every single time. I think that's another worry. He's making it too easy for people to defend, and we're already easy to defend. So if we can't rely on him to use his technical ability to sort of stretch the back, then we have a big concern because we don't get that on the other flank when Ramsey plays there. So it's going to be, it's going to be difficult to see where we go from there. But to be honest, it's I don't know. I don't think any of us are really surprised about most of the things, but I am surprised how Sanchez has been playing this season. Not been good.
Do you think there's comparison to be made of? I don't want to turn this into a Chelsea podcast because I'd probably have to drown in my own vomit. But should we maybe say that there's almost a sense of what's happening to Eden Hazard is almost happening to Alexis, in that you get a season in the Premier League where you can light it up, and there's very few players I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head only that can consistently do this season in, season out without having to change their game or adjust it in some ways. Do you think that Alexis's form is suffering because the team is suffering, or do you just literally think that it is a bit of burnout and the fact we brought him back so soon, maybe that's our fault?
It could be a bit of both, because we definitely over-relied on him far too much last season. We have a history of doing that in the first place. But I do feel like as a professional athlete and a footballer, over time, as seasons progress, you need to sit down and analyze your performance, but also the performances of people who played against you. Because if you realize that people are starting to understand how you begin to play, it's up to you to then tweak your game so then you can counter what they've learned. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be struggling. I think that is as far as I was having to Hazard right now, because I think that's why he's struggling. I think that's why Chelsea's struggling in general. But it's the same thing about tactics overall, right? We're all complaining about how we play the same tactics week in, week out, and everyone knows exactly how to counter it, but we don't change it. And the same goes down to the singular player level. If you are a player who plays one particular way and people realize how to negate you on the pitch and you don't adjust to then counter them countering you, then you're going to struggle. That happens with like Fabregas, for example. I know we all like to hate on him now, but I think we saw that when he played for Arsenal as well. He was very, very good in the first half of the season, and in the second half, when people got used to dealing with Fabregas, he disappeared. So I don't think it's any different. So I think it's the responsibility of a mature player to understand that their game has to evolve over time every season, just as like tactics should in a similar way.
Yeah, I agree. And as I mentioned before we started recording tonight, I am a sucker for punishment. I will be on the pod tomorrow night, and we'll be previewing the Chelsea game on that. So I shall hang myself for a second time, 24 hours, and go through it all again tomorrow. So if you want some more preview on the Chelsea game, do tune in tomorrow evening. Karl, I want to come to you, and let's just bring up something that a lot of people want to talk about, and I know you've got some views on, and that is the tactics of the manager. You have some thoughts on tonight in particular?
Yeah, we're all talking about the players, about what they did and what they didn't do, and I feel that we haven't really spoken about what Arsene Wenger has or hasn't done. I don't want to go back to the transfer market. That's done, and there's nothing we can do until January, so we are stuck with the players that we have. But again, it comes down to, it's almost like Arsene Wenger sets his team out to only play one way. Zagreb had no intention of trying to attack us. Both their goals almost came from set play. So they had no intention. They were trying to hit us on the break, and that was their game plan. So from early on, if you see that that's their game plan, why would we not change our tactics? And we didn't. I agree with Drew that half-time, although we was down to 10 men, Walcott should have been on. He should have been on, and you should have just said to him, run at them, just run at them. And that sort of tactic, I think, would have worked. Arsene Wenger, he gets paid how much more money to, manage his team, and he's won trophies. He's forgotten more about football than I know. So obviously, there's a reason why he does certain things. But I just feel that tactically tonight he got it wrong as well as our players didn't play well. Tactically, he got it wrong.
Yeah, excellent point. And again, in the interest of a valid and balanced debate, we're not here to say that somebody's right or wrong. Karl's I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's a collective, and anyone that just sort of says, well, it's all the manager or well, it's all the players, I think it's always got to be a collection of both. But I think you make an excellent point. I think sometimes we need to adapt our game, change our game, maybe even change the formation for certain games. I wonder how we would have got on tonight with maybe 2 through the middle. I just wonder whether that would, because as you said, don't get it wrong, I think like John says, we have to give the opposition credit. We always should. This is the Champions League. There are no easy games, quote unquote. Ask Manchester United, PSV. But we sort of set up in the old familiar way. They dealt with it. They hit us on the break, and they got exactly what they came for. And their celebration after I think it's the second goal, kind of proved that, didn't it? Really. I want to just stick with you for a minute, Karl. With regards to where we go from here, Champions League wise. Am I right in saying, is it Bayern next, or is it not
No,
Bayern?
Olympiacos next up.
Olympiacos next. Cool. Okay, so that is a must win. What's your kind of thoughts? I mean, obviously now the Bayern back to back. I think they made the point in BT Sport commentary tonight where they were saying that if we won tonight, we beat Olympiacos, we go into Bayern with 6 points, and we can afford to maybe lose or draw those two games. Do you think the result tonight means that we now have to take something from Bayern over those two games?
I think whether we won or not tonight, we would have to have taken tried to take something from Bayern. It makes our job harder now to, you look in the away fixture against Bayern. Would we realistically win that? Honestly, no. Come on now, we're not going to beat Bayern up away. At home, yes. If we put out our best team and we play to our best, yes, we have got a chance of beating Bayern at home, definitely. The next game against Olympiacos, if we don't win that game, I'm not talking about drawing. If we do not win that game, personally, I can't see us qualifying. And I know that's harsh, and I know some people may say, no, come on, of course we are. Now, we have to win that game because arguably we're playing the two weakest teams first. We would have hoped to have got 6 points from both of them. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. But if we do not win against Olympiacos, I don't think we're qualifying. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. In fact, John, I want to come to you and Drew just with a sort of a flavour of hipster, if you will. What's your views overall? We've seen group stage one of all the games now across Europe, and obviously we can look at our performance tonight and our group. What's your overall thoughts on where we are as opposed to other teams? We saw Manchester United lose to a very weakened PSV side, and I'm not dismissing them because they're still a good side, but they're nowhere near what they were. And we saw Manchester City lose at home to, I'm sure you'd agree, watching a lot of Serie A football, a very much changed and arguably weakened Juventus side, and they're blowing away the Premier League. Does this kind of change our perspective on where we are? Should we be focusing on the Premier League? And what's your general thoughts on the sort of the Champions League as a whole, as opposed to where the other teams are?
I don't think we've changed from last year, really. We're good when we really, really have to be, or in games like Monaco where we can be really good but not do quite enough, so we look heroic but still lose. So I don't think we've really improved in terms of Europe. Playing an away game, a tough away game, whatever anyone thinks of Zagreb, yeah, okay, they're not the greatest team in the world, but you're still away from home in the Champions League. It doesn't matter who you play, it's difficult. You just got to have a bit of, you just got to have a bit of nous about you. They're players in that team that are experienced. They've played a lot of Champions League football. They've played at the Allianz and the Westfalen Stadium, and big clubs they've played against. So they should know what they're doing. And the manager as well. How long has he been playing in this competition? And we make the same mistake. So no, I don't think we really have improved. You look at the other English teams in particular. Chelsea beating Maccabi Tel Aviv, yeah, okay, you expected that, regardless of what form they were in. You just still thought, Chelsea, as bad as they've been this season, at some point they're going to turn it around. Whether that's the turning point for them, I think we'll find out on Saturday. But you would expect them to go through their group. I think United is a bit more hit and miss. You're not really sure. And City, I've really got no idea. Because, the group they're in... I expected Juve to win the group, but then I saw Juventus, how they started Serie A this season, and they were awful. Frankly, they're lucky to have a point, from a pretty dodgy penalty. Is the only reason they've got it. But then the way they played last night, they put in what's a proper away performance in the Champions League. City got a lucky goal that shouldn't have stood, but Juve, majority of the game, controlled the pace of it, played it the way they wanted to, and made City chase about. The thing that Arsenal should do when they go and play away games. I agree with Karl. If we don't beat Olympiacos, we're in serious trouble. I think I said when we did our predictions after the draw for the Champions League, I think I predicted that to get 10 points out of the group.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, trying to work out, can we get 10 points? So, beat Zagreb, beat Olympiacos twice, and get a point off Bayern.
Yeah.
When you put it like that, you go, oh, well, can we even do that? I don't know. Bayern Munich, although they're obviously doing well in Bundesliga, Dortmund are top at the moment, but on goal difference, but they're not looking at their complete best. I'm sure Drew will agree. There's some strange things that Guardiola's doing there, but still, I'm not convinced that we'll get a lot out of them because I just think their players will turn up at the time. So
that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as you say, Bayern winning 2-0 tonight. I mean, that's
and then it begs the question of: are we in the Champions League just for the money? And just is it just going to be another? I know it's the first game, so it's a long way to go, and there's obviously a lot more match days in the Champions League. But is it just going to be, okay, we get through the group, we end up finishing second, we scrape getting second, and then we'll get drawn against, let's be honest, you're most likely going to get drawn against someone like Madrid or Barca, and you don't fancy our chances against them at all. And you think, well, what is the point? And if you're making sacrifices for the team and doing squad rotation and things like that before big games in the Premier League, which then affect your Premier League results, is it worth doing those things? That's the thing that annoys me, is if the Champions League ends up being a pointless campaign, is it worth doing all these things? Because if it affects our Premier League season, then there isn't a point in it, in my opinion. You would just, if you're not going to go for it, or not that we didn't go for it tonight, but if you're not going to perform to the level you should do on a consistent basis, then just don't fucking bother, because it just cocks up the rest of the season. It really does.
We push so hard to get in it, and then almost try our best to come out of it. Yeah,
sometimes you just kind of think, would it be better if we just got, like the years when we had the qualifying round. Sometimes you think, well, would it have been better just to not get in it, just to miss out and have that season off like Liverpool did, where they had no Europe at all and they could really push for the title. You saw how much it improved them, because those extra games really wear on you. And if you're not winning those extra games and you're losing them, that's even more of a wear, because it's mentally draining on the players and the fans as well, and obviously on the manager. It's going to be, I'm sure, as much as some people hate Wenger, and I'm not his biggest fan in the world, that can't be easy for him either, going into work, and getting all the jibes about, you haven't won the league for however long, and you've never won the Champions League, and you've only been to the final once with Arsenal, things like that. It's not a fun job to do. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the $8 million a year probably helps out, but
it'll be interesting to see, and I'm going to come to both Drew and Karl on this.
Quickly, sorry, on a completely unrelated note, Sean, go make Danny a coffee. Sorry, I was supposed to do that earlier.
Lazy children. I'm going to come to both. We should also say the interesting comparison. I disagree. I think we do need to be in it every year for the sake of the transfers we don't make. We need to be in it every year. So
I'm not saying we don't need to be in it. I'm just saying we don't need to be in it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know the point you're making. And the acid test with that will be Borussia Dortmund. Keep an eye on them tonight, in this season, because obviously they dropped out quite high profile. They're leading the Bundesliga and at the moment look pretty damn tasty. So if they go on to win the Europa League, that'll be interesting to see how it's a good comparison. I'm going to come to Drew and then Karl. One quick thing I want to mention, actually, on that Manchester City game, did anyone else see Paul Pogba's Instagram from earlier, where he put Qatar City 1, Juve 2, great result for the boys? I thought that was quite amusing, given the fact that he's been heavily linked with them before, so that will take some explaining. Drew, give us your thoughts on what I've just been speaking to John about there with the Champions League.
I mean, I don't know. John pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I think this year sort of, I don't know, it'll be a good test for us to see, not just for us, but all English clubs, to see if they can really actually make the grade in Europe. I know that might not necessarily be what you wanted to hear about my opinion on it, but it's such a tough competition, and for us, I feel like John does have a point. If we're not gonna, I mean, I understand that for me the league should be the priority. I think a lot of people agree with that. But if you're not gonna turn up in a competition where the better you do in it, the more prestige your club gets, the more ability it gives you to bring in players. If you're going to be a laughingstock in that competition, then people might find one of the sources of the reason why we maybe struggle to bring in better players when we're linked with them. I don't really know. If you have another specific question about my opinion on Champions League, feel free to ask. But for me personally, this season for me needed to be all about the league, because I felt like that's our only serious chance of winning any legitimate silverware. Not that I don't rate the FA Cup or whatever have you, but we're never going to win Champions League. I'm sorry, we just don't have the quality to do it. And when sides like Juve and Atletico Madrid sort of can push on and make a final appearance, it's not because that they're top teams. It's because they're in leagues where they can slack off a bit and then rest their good players in the league to play their good players in Champions League. We don't have that, so for me, Champions League is almost tertiary because it's not a waste of time or money because we need to put the time in to keep our prestige up. I mean, the money to be able to do whatever we actually do with the money, but. For me, it's just almost like a waste at this point because we just don't turn up. We just don't.
No, I agree. I'm disappointed to hear that Pogba tweet might be fake, so I'm gutted.
Also,
I want it to be real.
Real quick about the Dortmund thing, I know you guys just brought up. It's something we should all consider given the current state of the club. Dortmund are playing well not because they don't have European distractions. They're playing well because Tuchel came in and revitalized the team when they were down because of the Klopp scenarios. And that's big. So as we move on to the next season or two, people need to wonder how that will affect the club when Wenger does finally leave. Will we somehow be revitalized as a football club on the pitch when we have someone new to come in who has the fresh energy to bring in something fresh?
Yeah.
Just pointing that out there real quick.
That's a great point, and also it makes all these people that will undoubtedly, I've seen them already, are all over the internet already saying, Wenger's got to go, blah 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 blah.
No.
Whatever side of the fence you fall on, I can't be bothered with that debate because it gets tiresome. But whatever side of the fence you fall on, one thing that proves in the Tuchel case is when you make the next appointment, you've got to make sure you get the right man, and if you can't get the right man, you don't make the change. And Man United is living proof of that because even now, I don't think they've got the right man in charge. So it's. Yeah, Liverpool is another one. So, you've got to be really careful what you wish for in these worlds as Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton fans. Anywho, Karl, give us your thoughts on Champions League in general and just sort of flesh out anything you wanted to bring up on that point.
Personally, I don't think under Arsene Wenger we will ever win the Champions League. And it's kind of sad to say because I don't think he's willing to do the nasty things to win the Champions League. Don't get it wrong, I never want Mourinho at our club. But personally, if Mourinho was our manager, I think we would have won the Champions League by now. Just because he's willing to do the nasty things, like he's willing to sacrifice playing pretty football to win. And maybe that's not a road that all Arsenal fans don't want to go down, but sometimes you do need to. And it's horrible to think about this question, but I've got a question for everyone here. What do you think Arsene Wenger's biggest disappointment will be? Do you think it's not winning the Champions League with Arsenal or the 9 years without a trophy? That's to everyone.
John?
Well, it's hard to see into the future because there's a possibility, but I do tend to agree with Karl. I don't think he will win the Champions League with Arsenal. So I think that will be his biggest disappointment. Because I think he should have won it in 2004. Yeah. I know we got to the final in 2006, but 2004 was the year we should have really won it.
Wayne Bridge!
Yeah, Wayne Bridge. Well, and I know it was Man United and it's the FA Cup, and yeah, okay, it's Man United, but just throw that game. I don't care.
Yeah.
Win the Champions League and the teams that were left in it.
Don't, John, don't. It's hard enough tonight as it is.
In 2006 as well, I think even the final we made mistakes in that. So I think that will end up being his biggest regret because I think he will look at the 9 years without a trophy. Although it's disappointing, I think he will see it as what he's given to the club in terms of the stadium and everything else and the structure he's left in place.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
Drew, do you have a different view, or are you much the same?
Not much the same. I think when people always get into the debate of the greatest managers of a certain generation or of all time in the game, they always first and foremost highlight their record in Europe. And Wenger has not been like spectacular. So I mean, making only one final, missing out on a final appearance with the Invincibles team, and now the last however many years we're struggling so much to even just get into the quarterfinals. I feel like that'll be the one blemish on his record. Domestically, it's hard to argue against that. The quality he has there, and he's one of the greatest managers of the era. But in Europe, he's definitely fell short. So I definitely think for someone who is a continental, he'll definitely kind of lament his struggles there for sure.
Yeah, and Karl, answer your own question then. What's your views on that same question?
For me, probably not winning the Champions League. I agree. In 2004, that almost had our name on it. We had, was it Monaco, Porto? Um, we should have won that. We really, really should have won that. In 2006, the Juventus final, the Barcelona final, we was unlucky. Well, no, Jens Lehmann should have got sent off. He was the last man. But again, I agree with Andrew. Tactically, I think Wenger got it wrong as well, because I know we're going back in time, but he should not have taken off Pires. He should have taken off Reyes, but that's a whole another story. But it's sad to say that although we're not looking into the future, I still can't see Arsene Wenger ever winning the Champions League with Arsenal, and that's going to be one of the saddest things. And like Andrew said, when we do look at the greatest managers in the game, will Arsene Wenger be in that conversation because he hasn't won the Champions League?
It's one of those things that I think, like you said, like you've all said, in fact, I think from memory, John Cross's book that's coming out, cheap plug for the podcast if you haven't heard it from last week, give it a listen, very good. I think he mentioned something about the fact that I think Wenger's put it in his book that he does feel that's the one thing that he really wanted to win, and I still think he feels like it's a missed opportunity. And as I think you said there, Drew, and John said as well, he's judged, or he will be judged on or all managers, sorry, will be judged on the European success, because ultimately that's what gets them big jobs. Guardiola is one of the prime examples of that. So I'm inclined to agree, and it will be very interesting to see if someone like a Barcelona can indeed retain, because that will be proof that they've moved on. Whereas, again, like John said, we've arguably not gone backwards, but we've stagnated, I think it's fair to say. And, Man United losing last night is proof that just because you've got a team with a reputation doesn't mean you'll win games. You have to be changing and evolving at all times. And when a team like Malmo go to PSG and concede after, 3 minutes and only lose 2-0 and had a chance to get back to 1-1, you look at teams, you go, well, our team's getting better, while we're not improving, and that's probably the biggest concern when it comes to Europe for me. But hey, let's hope that Spurs lose to the whoever it is they're playing tomorrow, because that will always cheer us up, or at the very least Bordeaux beat Liverpool. Let's hope. I'm going to turn things over for the last 5-10 minutes to the viewing public. So all of you guys, thank you all for tuning in with us. It's over to you guys. If you've got any questions for myself or the team, please pop them in the old chat box. John is going to be doing his best to keep in touch with them. I'm going to just ask you all a one-word answer to this question, just while we wait for some questions to come through. Drew, I'll start with you. Do we qualify first or second from this group? And do we beat Bayern Munich in either of those games? So yes or no to each question.
No, we don't qualify first, and despite Bayern having their own struggles with their first team, I don't think we beat them either. I just don't know.
Fair enough, John.
Second. And no, we don't beat Bayern.
Cool. Karl?
Agree with John. Second, and no, we're not going to beat Bayern at all.
Good stuff. I'm going to buck the trend here. I think we finished second, but weirdly, I think we'll beat Bayern in one of the two games. And now I don't know which one. It would just be so typically Arsenal, wouldn't it, for us to turn up at home probably and pull out a worldie and then probably lose at home to Zagreb. But it'll just be us.
I saw a tweet earlier that made me laugh. He said the only time you bet on Arsenal winning 2-0 in Europe away is if we lost the first leg
3-1.
3-1. You made me laugh, actually.
It is so true. It's so true. We're nothing if not consistent and predictable. Danny's got some good questions here. Should we shoot more? That's always a popular one. Should we defend more? Yeah, or should we stop being shit? I like all three of those, but has there anything filtered through, John, that's a legit question?
Yes, I've got a few. Liam asked, he's just asked again, do you think Arsenal was foolish to not buy CDM? And his question from earlier was, how can you justify that there is no player in the world that could have been playing tonight that would be better than Arteta? So trying to answer it without talking about transfers as fast as possible.
Is that directed at anyone particular?
Yeah, whoever wants to take it.
I'll have a go on the players one, and I'll let somebody else take the first part. The players one for me, listen, I don't think that Arsene Wenger has ever really said, or at least meant, that there are no players out there that would improve our squad. I don't think. I think his argument is that always has been there are no players that will improve us that will walk straight to the first team 11 that were attainable. And I know I saw a few people earlier on in the chat box that were saying we should have gone after a Kondogbia, for example. John will confirm this. The guy is not up to Arsenal standards. He's a massive punt on he will probably do all right for Inter and he'll probably suit Serie A, but he's a massive punt. And if you look at all the players that have been transferred over this summer, listen, I'm not for a minute saying that we weren't negligent in the transfer window. I'm not saying that what we didn't do is justifiable, because it's pretty damn hard. And I'm very much a supporter of the manager and what he does, but even I found that pretty hard to justify. But what I would say is, for these people that are now have a go heroes coming out and saying, oh well, he knew Wilshere was injured, he knew Welbeck was injured, to those people I say bollocks, absolute bollocks. These also people that say that the manager's lying, I think that's absolute crap. The guy clearly thought that Welbeck was close to return. Wilshere is a whole other debate which we might cover in tomorrow's pod, I think. But are there players out there that could improve our squad? Probably, yeah. I would probably say that there are. Should we have taken a punt on some of them? It's a debate. It really is open to debate. I personally think that, John, you hit the nail on the head earlier. When I saw that squad tonight, that squad that we played tonight, or the squad that we have, was more than capable of winning in Zagreb. And I don't care what anyone says, that squad was more than good enough to win. And it comes down to a mentality or a tactical issue why we didn't win the game. And I genuinely don't think that putting a Kondogbia into our midfield tonight, or I don't know, even a Cavani up front tonight for that matter, I just don't think it changes anything, because if the mentality is wrong and the defending is poor and there's too many players not having good games, you're going to lose games. So it's a difficult one. But Drew, do you want to have a go on the first part of the question?
What was the first part of the question again, John?
Oh god, I've lost it now. Was there no one? Basically, is there no one better, than Arteta? Could have played that position tonight. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Without going on for ages.
When you look at the team sheet side by side, you have to think that Arteta is at least on par or better than what Zagreb has to offer, and at that point, he justified a run out, and it's fine. There are players obviously better in the world than Arteta, but as Kris just said, and John, as again you'll doubly confirm, why spend all that money on someone like a Kondogbia who is massively overrated? If the only team in world football that wanted Kondogbia was Inter, then there's a problem. Then clearly he's not as good as people rate him. There are players that are better than Arteta. Like Kris and a couple of us brought up in the WhatsApp chat a couple of times that you could have taken a chance on someone like Thiago Motta, who is experienced. He fits the position we needed. He's okay with coming off the bench and putting in a performance every now and then, because that's what he does for PSG. So there are players like that who we could have gone after. I don't agree that we shouldn't have. I think we definitely should have, because depth is how you get through days like this. When you have that depth, you can put in a Mata and say, I'm confident that he will play the Coquelin role. Maybe not as good, but good enough to get us through, because when you look at it, our biggest issue today was that Coquelin wasn't playing. And Arteta isn't capable of playing the role. Like I brought up in our side box earlier, Arteta's the kind of player that should have been playing where Cazorla was playing, so Arteta-Coquelin would have made more sense than Cazorla-Arteta. But that's another thing, for another time. But yeah, there are players there, but we didn't go after them, and I think that was a big mistake, because now I think this is one of those seasons where you have so many teams in the league strengthening, you have another long European campaign ahead, and depth is going to bite us in the ass if injuries keep happening, or people are not on form.
It's a tough one to ask. It's a tough one to answer.
Yeah.
Have you got a question? Yeah, give one to Karl.
Yeah. Liam just said Inter would probably beat us. I can confirm, Liam, they definitely wouldn't. Being an Inter Milan fan, they really wouldn't. Oh,
yeah,
God,
ditto.
they're still dreadful. Here's a good one. Lawrence Mounts. In my opinion, Gabriel has been brilliant this season. Who's our best centre-back pairing for the season? If anything, he's the one positive for tonight. I thought he played really well. So who do you think, Karl, is our best centre-back pairing, considering the way Gabriel's been playing?
Have we seen Gabriel and Mertesacker play together? To the best of the top of my head,
I don't think this season we have we?
No, not this season. Definitely not.
No.
Everyone goes on about Mertesacker, how he's not a good defender because he's slow, but you have to think to yourself, how many times has he been caught out for pace? Like, for the top of my head, I can't think of that many times where someone's absolutely run away from him and he hasn't been able to caught him. Yes, he's not as fast as Koscielny or Gabriel, but I can't think of that many times where someone has turned him and run away from him. But that being said, I do think Koscielny and Gabriel are our two best centre-back pairings. Just I think they're both strong, they're both good in the air, they're both more mobile than Mertesacker is.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I mean, I feel that was the one good thing that came out tonight, was the fact that Gabriel did play really well, I thought. I know he had that one wobble right at the end of the game, but I can forgive him that, considering the way every other player on the team played tonight.
He looks, just to come in on that quickly, I was holding my hands up. I'm holding my hands up a lot tonight. It's like the bloody YMCA going on over here. But I was one that thought when we went for, we were looking at defenders and there was lots of names being bandied about. I thought he was a risk. He looked good at Villarreal, but I just thought, I'm not sure about this. The sort of the lack of experience at top level and whatnot. I just thought, I'm not sure. But thus far, and we don't want to speak too soon because he'll probably fall on his arse and put one in his own net against Chelsea. Now he said this, but he does look to me like a proper defender. He's an athlete. He attacks the ball. That's what I really like about him. If you look at both of our other centre backs, even Mertesacker is not really an attacking the ball type of defender. He likes to sort of intercept or play on his experience.
Well,
exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And whereas Gabriel to me looks like the sort of guy that, if you're in the trenches, you want him alongside you, to use the cliche, and he just looks like a sort of guy that will really do a job. And if you're ever looking for somebody like for Gabriel to keep learning off of and keep improving, I don't think Mertesacker's, there's nobody better than a guy with 100 German caps and a World Cup to teach him the ropes. So
it's nice to have the options there.
Yeah, and Callum Chambers as well. He'll learn from him as well because, let's not forget he's still at the club and, he will only get better, hopefully.
I must say, Gabriel, my favourite bit tonight was after Ospina had killed the future of Croatian football. He was on the floor, and Gabriel just walked over him and just told him to get up or get off the pitch. Which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
He's the sort of guy you can imagine picking him up by the back of his shirt and just dumping him.
Yeah, who was it who rolled? Was it Reyes? Someone rolled Reyes off the pitch in the game.
Yeah, I
think that's the sort of thing you could see Gabriel, but instead he'd just kick him off, wouldn't he? Yeah, no, I do love that. Brendan Kane, is it a personnel problem or tactics? I think we covered that. Here's a good one. Who out of you three is a big boxing fan? Because this is going to help here. True Gunner asks, who wins on Saturday? I mean the parking lot brawl between Wenger and Mourinho. For me, reach is the key factor.
Well, Arsenal's surely got the reach because he's a big lad, isn't he?
I think Jose's a sort of, he'd like to fight inside. He's more
fingers in the eyes. Yeah.
I think Arson's got the reach. You just do him on on stamina for rounds.
Yeah, and sly little jabs, like kidney punches. I think I'm pretty sure Drew's the same. I'm more of an MMA man myself. So,
what's Mourinho's assistant, the nutty Portuguese guy? What's his name?
Yes, that guy. Rui Ferreira, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, if it was wrestling, he'd be sort of Wenger and when the ref's not looking, steel chair over the back of the head, something like that.
Yeah, yes. So I say we get him in a cage, or better still, could we put him in a WWE ring and get them both in spandex? Because there's nothing.
If that's your thing, Kris.
But there's nothing the world would like to see more than Arsene Wenger in a pair of spandex. battling Jose Mourinho. Maybe even in Gladiators with like pugil sticks. If anyone's good in Photoshop, do that. Tweet at the AFC podcast. We will give it more retweets than we've ever done anything else of.
Right, let's try a proper question. good question, Trigger. Rob Parrott asks, should Alexis get a shot at centre forward?
No.
Okay, I'll let Drew jump in on that one.
I don't want to. No, he shouldn't. Oh my God, no, he shouldn't. It's the same problem if you throw Walk out there. Alexis has only ever played center forward for Chile because they played a 3-5-2, and because he played off the shoulder with what's his face, who used to be at QPR. But it wouldn't work with how we play. We'd have to play something different, something we'll never play, and some sort of tactical makeup we'll never deploy. It's not. There'd be no reason to ever. So no, I don't think you should. Just
give one more question. Give that one to Karl, John, and then we'll wrap this one up.
Last one. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Right. Another one from Lawrence Mounts. Sorry. See, everyone else in the chat box, you're all being lazy. You're not asking enough questions.
You watch us get 10 now.
I'm going to get spammed now, aren't I? If Wenger had to leave... I'm doing it like Danny. If Wenger had to leave right now, who is the best realistic manager that we could get in currently? There you go. It's a really horrible question for you, Karl.
Ancelotti. Or the Bayern, what's the Dortmund one? What his name now?
Klopp.
Those are the only two you could see to come straight in. And if I had a choice out of the two of them, probably Ancelotti, because he's a proven winner. He knows how to win. So, even though he managed Chelsea, hating them, but Klopp's going to win you titles. He's going to win you games. He knows how to win. So, yeah, if Wenger's to leave tomorrow, then Ancelotti would probably be my favourite to come in.
Can I say one thing on Klopp real quick?
Come on, Drew.
I know John's trying to think about what I'm going to say. He's simmering about what. The problem with Klopp is he, as much as people rave about him tactically, and he's charismatic and people love him in press conferences, he makes people laugh, the way he sips his beer next to his water bottle in the press room, that's fine. But the problem with him is he's not as good of a manager as people think. The breakdown in Dortmund last year was a mentality issue in the dressing room. It wasn't for a lack of quality of players. That's the big issue. So for me, I wouldn't want him much, no matter how much I love him, because what we have now, which might come under scrutiny later depending on the season, but we have a very close-knit bunch of players and we have that sort of camaraderie in the dressing room that a lot of clubs don't have. So whoever we bring in would need to respect that. So I don't know if Klopp would. It's not that he wouldn't like the players or players wouldn't like him, but to Wenger's credit, he does know how to manage our players well from a mental aspect when it comes into keeping them together. Because we've dealt with a lot of issues at the club for a number of years, and the fact that he's managed to keep a lot of the players without jumping off a bridge is pretty impressive. So,
and we all know, of course, that Klopp will be clippity-clopping his way into Anfield when Brenton finally launches the plank. We all know that that's going to happen.
Brenton's going to stay forever.
We want Brenton in. We want him to stay.
We also need a manager to come in who understands that, much like Arsenal, you can't solve problems just by throwing money at them, which is why I wouldn't want Ancelotti, because he's also been at proven winners already. We would need a guy to come in and sort of revamp and revitalize what we have, which is why I would actually want Frank de Boer rather, sorry.
So in summary, what we're basically saying is that when Owen Coyle is available,
yes,
he will be that man. So
we're ripping it up in the MLS.
We're all on the Owen Coyle train, and we'll probably have Paul Merson as his assistant, spouting random bollocks. I love you, Mercer, but Jesus Christ, man, rein it in.
I think that's it on the questions. So we're a bit short on time, aren't we, Chris?
Yes, we're going to wrap things up because we're conscious that I've got to keep my vocal cords alive for tomorrow, and especially if Danny's still in the wars, we might be a man down. So I'm going to bring things to a close. I do just want to, as usual, give the usual plugs. For those of you that don't know, or for those of you that are new to tonight, we do have a Twitter page. It is @the Bergie Radio. You give us a follow, we'll follow you back. If you're interested in coming on the show, as Karl has tonight, as Jamal did at the weekend, we have had others as well. If you wanted to come in and you want to join us for an episode, I now have a very pretty spreadsheet that I'm booking people in for dates. So if you're interested in coming on the show, just drop us a DM at the Bergie Radio account. So give us a follow, we'll follow you back. Drop us a DM, we'll see what we can do. The only things we ask is that you have a headset, camera is optional, and wired internet. Because if you don't, Danny will come round your house and poo in your flower pot. So there you go. And we see what happens when people poo in flower pots. Look at Drew's plant. It's all over the place. Also, follow at the Bergie Blogs, which is our blogger site. Drew is one of our bloggers. For those of you who don't know, they all do an excellent job. I think there's a piece that's coming out this week as well. From memory, I can't remember who's up next. Drew, can you remember who's up next?
Yeah, I have one coming out next week about Jack Wilshere, actually.
There you go. It's almost like we set that up. I genuinely did. So there you go. So that'll be a good read. So follow, give Drew a follow. All of our Twitter handles are in the information below if you want to give us a follow. And also at the AFC podcast, which is where you'll find our main hub for our main podcast and all the beautiful things that we do on this parish. So do give us a follow. John, just one other thing that we'd like people's help with. Do you want to just give them a quick nudge on this front?
Yes, as I'm sure you're all aware, our mothership, the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, where all this lovely stuff started, is an award-winning podcast. It won the Football Bloggers Awards last year as Best Podcast. So this year it's up for nomination again, as is the Bloggers site for Best Blog. And now, as we have the lovely, wonderful radio show, we are up for Best Video Football Blog. Yes, the radio show is up for an award. It's amazing, isn't it? Especially with mine and Chris's face on it most week. So if you'd be so kind, if you enjoy what you see here and like us, obviously give us a follow and a like and subscribe and all the other things that people do on the internet. But on the Bergie Radio site, there is a tweet, and it will show. We'll put it at the top. It will show you how to vote. There, you can either follow the link or you can just copy and paste the tweet, and it's just a simple tweet. It says, "I'm voting in the FBAs for the Bergie Radio as Best Video Football Blog." If you could do that, give them a vote. Give a vote for the bloggers as well for their awards, which is much the same. It's just for best blog instead, and one obviously for the podcast, because it would be wonderful if we could win 3 awards. And hopefully we'll have someone at the award ceremony as we did last year.
Yes, yeah. Jace went last year and collected the award.
Yes.
Thank you to Jace. And I think Gim and Kate are planning to go this year, but if not, I'm sure somebody will go.
Yeah,
I mean, if push comes to shove, me and John will cycle up and hold hands.
Probably closer for Chris, but I'm slightly slimmer, so I'm fitter.
Yeah, certainly slimmer than me, I'll tell you that much. I think the actual awards are in November, so
right, okay.
There's a bit of time to go. The other thing we should mention, and thank you, John, for that, you only have to vote once, so don't worry, we're not going to barack you forever, but if you fancy chucking a tweet out or tell your friends, if you can just do the one tweet for each platform, and that will go in a vote in our column, and who knows where we might end up. I know that there's some other very good podcasts against us, video podcasts I should say, like Red Men TV and AFTV, who you'll all be aware of, but it's nice just to be in that company, so fingers crossed. And if you like what you see, then give us a vote. If you don't, then well, so what can we say? If you don't like us, then
Liam has just said we are up for the treble, so something Arsenal related to
Yeah,
the chance to win. Come on, it's an internet vote, so we've got to win it.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, happy birthday to Fife.
Yes.
Apparently it's Fife's birthday,
Fife's
and Raj
birthday.
is on Friday. I've got no idea whether that's true or not, but just go and bug them on Twitter.
I think it is. Yeah, it's definitely Fifey's birthday today. And the podcast tomorrow, as I say, my good self will be on there along with Gimli. Hopefully Danny will be there. Darren Berry, who's most of you I'm sure will be aware of on Twitter, he's a very funny guy. He will be on as well. And also Fife himself. So if he's not in a drunken shit, I mean, God knows what could happen in the 24 hours between now and tomorrow's podcast. Fife could end up in a ditch. You just never know. Park Fife happens and things go off the rails. So there we go. In closing, I would just like to wish Luke Shaw all the very best in his recovery. I know he's a Man United player, but we know all about broken legs at our club. It was a horrific injury, and all the best to him. And also want to thank Karl for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you coming on with us, mate. I'm sure you'll be back at some point as well. But I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you very much for making your debut.
No worries, anytime. Anytime you want me on, just let me know, and yeah, I'm available. Thank you for having me on.
Good stuff. You'll regret that when I ask you like the next 15 weeks in a row. As John and Drew will testify. John, thank you to you for coming on again tonight, mate.
No worries, Chris.
And Drew, thank you again for coming on last minute once again. I promise you are not the fourth place trophy.
Yeah.
In my first team.
It's okay. You got to. The good thing is, 2 of the 4 of us were black this evening, so you made your quota. So it wasn't just me.
All we need to do now is we need some sort of cross gender, and we'll have a full set. So we'll work on that. I'm sure Danny can sort it.
I'm glad I got John's evening a little bit better now. You're welcome, John.
Thanks, Drew. I really appreciate that.
But no, thank you all for joining us. I think we've tried to keep it positive and upbeat. So thank you as always to everyone that's listened tonight and has followed along and tweeted us and all the good stuff. We do appreciate it. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. Well, we would, but it'd just be us 4. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back after the Chelsea game. Whatever happens, I think Mr. Canton is returning, and I think Mr. Schrader is on this week, from memory, I think. But anyway, some of us will be here. I'll be here, and we will speak to you on the podcast tomorrow, and we will return after Chelsea. Until then, keep it Arsenal, and we will speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.
All right.